one of the things that people told me they get is feeling a part of something bigger, of initiative which actually matters. The volunteers actually get this sense of belonging to this bigger purpose of handing over this passion to younger people. There is an estate which was built not long ago near where my aircraft is built, and they have, on Facebook, they've got a chat group. And after one of our flights, I was pointed out to look there, what people said, and the feedback which was there made me, I don't know, very emotional. One woman said, "I'm bedbound, and when I hear the noise of this aircraft, it makes my day."
That's an incredible story.
She said, "I can sometimes see through the window from my bed, and it makes my day." And a school teacher said, I was teaching, and she said it made the day for the kids and for us, the teachers at the school.
So Tetyana, talk to me about learning to fly the jet Provost and what the journey was like.
Yeah, it was a hell of a journey. Obviously, it started not on a very smooth note when I tried first, and I was told that they didn't want me to fly with them. So when as I mentioned, the conversation with Mike was very welcoming. That put me at ease. However, I was still a bit worried that basically somebody thought that I was too short for the aeroplane. So I thought I would come prepared. So I started looking for some platform shoes, but back when I started in 2010, the platforms were not in fashion, unfortunately. So the only place I could find platform shoes was a Goth website. So I did my best to find Goth shoes without any spikes on them to remotely look like a normal shoe. So I got those, but I didn't take the labels off because I thought if they don't work, or if they're not tall enough, or if there is a problem with them, I would just send them back. There was no way on earth I was going to keep those Goth shoes if I didn't need them. You just had to do what you had to do. So I just took a precautionary route. Basically, I could not afford to lose. So I guess I felt like somebody who comes for an interview to the last airline that is left, that they haven't been interviewed by yet. And that's the last chance. And you just do everything you have to do to be able to pass that interview. You just take all the precautions and do your best. And there was absolutely no issue whatsoever with reaching anything, or no problems whatsoever, not in the first flight, not on the second one. So in the end, I didn't send those shoes back. I used them for a few times. I didn't need them. Normal shoes did just a good job. And then obviously platforms became fashionable. So just any normal, reasonably good shoes with a thick sole are just good enough. Particularly if you are hanging upside down, if you're doing aerobatics where you have to apply full rudder from inverted. So whatever it is that you worry about, there is always something that you can learn how to work with the aeroplane or with the situation or with a certain aerobatic maneuver that you are finding harder to accomplish for one reason or another. There is always something you could do slightly differently. You don't always, for example, we know that if you pull over 3.5 G, you've got a fatigue meter on the aircraft which clicks at certain G points. And over 3.5 G, you use more life than you use below. So what you learn is if you want to preserve the aircraft for longer, you could learn to do the same aerobatic maneuver by pulling less G, but you have to enter at a higher speed, for example. So there is always a tip and a trick to learn how to do things in a more efficient way for you or for the aircraft. And that's all. It's all about that. It's how you work with what you have to achieve the outcomes.
So what's really interesting about your story there is you're talking about adapting yourself or the environment around you. And I'm just thinking about our disabled community who are constantly having to adapt. Like here at Aerobility, we've got specially adapted aircraft, with levers instead of rudder pedals if you don't have the use of your legs. So what advice can you give then to someone who finds themselves in a situation that they need to then adapt to? What are your top tips for adapting?
Be creative and think out of the box. It's a very overused phrase, I guess. When I was flying Firefly, cushions is the thing to go to. The seats in the Firefly didn't move, so I had to have 2 cushions there. So what I did is I investigated the grade of the foam that basically compresses less. So I ordered a cushion of the size I needed, of the grade I needed, of the width I needed to basically carry with me when I was learning to fly the Firefly. So there is research you can always, maybe not always, but which you can do to find what's available. And see what you can, which measurements you might need to make it more customized for yourself, basically. I remember when I was walking with these massive pillows to fly the Firefly, people were laughing like, what is that? And I would always say, that's parachutes. And they would make it, they would always laugh and make jokes about it. I liked it. Whatever brings attention to aviation is good for for aviation, basically. With the jets, with the live seats, you don't get to use cushions. You can't have anything between yourself and the seat. I was lucky that with the jet provost, it suited me. I didn't need any cushions, basically. That was quite lucky, I would say. Some aeroplanes, like heritage aircraft with live seats, I guess are less adaptable than others, like Firefly, for example. But I'm aware of people wearing, for example, wooden extensions, etc., on their feet when learning to do aerobatics in pit special, for example, and stuff like that. Also, some pedals can be adapted as well. I guess with historic jets, it's a bit more difficult than that. So I can't give much advice on adapting the aeroplane, but basically, as I said, if you are doing certain maneuvers, you should keep them realistic for what your ability is, basically. So, for example, although I could get checked out to do stall turns in the jet provost, I never wanted to, because a stall turn in the jet brings it potentially close to a spin, stall and a spin. So I always thought, why would I do that? So although there is a safe height from which you could do that, I thought I don't have to do it. So I always try to be aware of things that I really don't have to do, which could be riskier than other things. But there is no reason to push for it, is there?
So what's really interesting so far about your story is this perseverance, this persistence, this continuous tenacity of just wanting to get to flying the jet provost, which is, it's really inspiring to hear. So let's talk a little bit about resilience. So first of all, what does resilience mean to you?
I think it's the way of life. It's not, for me, it's not just about the jets or getting to fly a jet provost. For me, it's an attitude to life. Resilience is something that just helps you cope with difficulties in life overall. And obviously, many people have difficult situations that they face in everyday life. And resilience is something that you can't just bring in and then leave it behind. It's something that you cultivate in yourself. And also it's something that you learn continuously from other people. And also your resilience gets support from other people who actually have got a similar outlook on life. So my team is a resilient team, and we get strengths from each other. So the engineers we work with are also very resilient. So when you operate a historic jet, you have to comply with very strict requirements for airworthiness. However, you also have to be resilient and creative and possess huge tenacity in terms of how do you keep this flying with lack of spare parts, with very tough regulation, with costs. You know, with heritage aircraft, you do not achieve the economy of scale which you achieve with airlines or training aircraft, which are used in every flight school. there are only 5 aircraft of this type. So when you try to buy tires, for example, the minimum order from Dunlop is 20, and each tire costs £1,000. So you learn this. So that basically makes everything quite difficult, where there is nothing to assist you, really. The regulation is not assisting you to keep a historic aircraft flying because it doesn't have a provision for something that's historic and only few of them are left. So you work with those people who can offer that kind of resilience and creativity and innovation within very confined kind of strict requirements. You look for ways how you work with the Civil Aviation Authority to get those things approved, those new approaches approved, etc. So you can only achieve it as a resilient person who cultivates their own resilience. You can only achieve it with working with a resilient team of people. So it's all about being a really tough team of individuals. So you have to really constantly evolve your resilience to work with other people, different kinds of stakeholders, residents, councils, airports, Civil Aviation Authority, Department for Transport. You find people who would back you up, people who embrace the STEM initiatives, the benefits that this that what you are offering offer to the young people, to the society. Preserving the history of this country is important. The whole world used to get export aviation products from the UK. So it's all about waking up this spirit and bringing more talent into aviation.
Do you think preserving historic jets is really important
Exactly.
for understanding history, potentially?
Understanding history and bringing more people into the industry, because the UK currently, I think, is struggling to re-achieve the position it used to hold for so many years as an aviation leader, with so many manufacturers and airlines and so much to offer. Currently, we don't have as many airlines or as many British aircraft manufacturers left. So we have to really re-establish ourselves as the country who is a world leader in aviation. That's one of the goals on the Department for Transport roadmap, is to become the best country for general aviation in the world, basically. And to achieve that, you have to bring many people in. And these old aircraft, being so loud, they actually inspire young people to come into the industry. A lot of people currently, for example, the head of the Civil Aviation Authority, Stephen Hillier, he admitted that he was inspired into aviation from an air show. A lot of people came into aviation by seeing jets flying at an air show. Something that is very fast, very loud, actually has got this power to wake you up and look up. When I was in one of the Farnborough air shows recently, the aircraft which got the most attention was a Harrier, which came from Spain, because our Harriers were retired by them. And everybody, absolutely everybody stopped to look at, the Harrier.
So if someone wants to get involved into helping preserve heritage aircraft, how can they get involved? And potentially not just able-bodied people, but people with disabilities as well. How can they get involved with this initiative?
It's very easy. So they would need to basically Google us, the operators of historic aircraft, heritage aircraft, historic aircraft, jet provost, de Havilland Vampire, etc. There are only a few types left in the UK now. So there used to be, when I got involved, there were probably well over 10 types of historic jets still flying. The Vulcan used to still fly. Meteors, Venoms, all the Canberras, the aircraft which no longer fly now. Currently we have jet provosts left, Vampire, one Vampire, Strike Masters, Nuts. So if people Google those aircraft, they would find the operators. They can come and volunteer with us. We need all help we can possibly get, not just us, but any operator. People can volunteer to do all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be piloting or engineering. It can be digital assistance, promotion of events, websites, social media, sourcing of spares, for example, liaising with suppliers, etc., working with schools, because we promote historic aviation to various communities, various schools, colleges, etc., all people of all backgrounds. It's reaching out to those people. We need help. We need somebody who has got time to reach out and invite people to come and see us, invite to events, help organize events, etc. So all that help is highly appreciated and desired. And I think a lot of volunteers who come to us actually told us that their life changed by being involved.
What do you think are the benefits then of volunteering? Because what I'm thinking of here is at Aerobility, we've got an initiative called the Equal Skies Charter, which is to remove barriers in the aviation and aerospace industries for people with disabilities. So what do you think are the benefits to people for volunteering and being involved, in this case, with preserving heritage aircraft?
One of the things that people told me they get is feeling a part of something bigger, of initiative which actually matters. Our volunteers get to see how the youngsters react to seeing the aircraft, seeing the cockpit or seeing how it flies, or hearing the engine. It's quite loud and it's quite satisfying. People say it's the sound of freedom. So the volunteers actually get this sense of belonging to this bigger purpose of handing over the kind of this passion to younger people, also changing lives of people, I guess. We have, there is an estate which was built not long ago near where my aircraft is built, and they have, on Facebook, they've got a chat group. And after one of our flights, I was pointed out to look there, what people said. And the feedback which was there made me, I don't know, very emotional. One woman said, "I'm bedbound, and when I hear the noise of this aircraft, it makes my day."
Oh, that's an incredible story.
She said, "I can sometimes see through the window from my bed, and it makes my day." And a school teacher said, I was teaching and we were, I forgot, I think they were having a break, or maybe they actually ran out of outside during the lesson to look at it. And she said it made the day for the kids and for us, the teachers at the school in that newly built estate near the airport. And that's what we often hear from our volunteers who, it makes their day when they come and they see the reaction of other people and they feel being a part of it. A part of a group of people who brings joy to others. When we see all those happy faces, 200 of visitors that we had on a community day, working with the cafe, where all kinds of families came up with dogs and elderly people and little children and babies, and there was a huge queue to see the aeroplane. Our volunteers were very chuffed to be a part of it, to be around there and being involved, showing the other people around. So being part of something bigger than a normal life, where you would go to the supermarket and get some food for the week and then watch some TV, this is much bigger than that. And being a part of that gives people a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose. And also being able to talk to like-minded individuals. You meet other people who are like-minded, who want to learn. You get to talk to them, you get to share what you know, and you suddenly feel very, very different. And you feel like your life suddenly gets purpose. So it's those things you can't really buy, which makes a difference in people's day-to-day life.
What I love about that story is also inspiring the children on the playground, running outside to see it. So that sort of moves us on to then your role as an ambassador. So you're an ambassador for the UK's Department for Transport, an aviation ambassador. So tell me a little bit about that and why it's important to you to go into schools or to talk about aviation to children.
I think it's really humbling to see how the kids react to seeing the actual aircraft and learning about it at an airport. My favorite thing is actually inviting the young people to come and see the airport and see the aircraft and hear the noise, because that is how you get involved in real aviation. With the Department for Transport, I really appreciate the outreach, which increases from working with the Department for Transport. You can actually reach out to more people, and you can see that actually the Department for Transport really wants the UK to succeed as a leader in the aviation industry. That it's not something that a handful of males tail, etc., like they call it, people that they just go to an airfield, they fly their little aeroplanes, and they go for a beer. Aviation in this country is far more than that. And when people see that the Department of Transport actually is behind it, the perception of aviation in this country changes, that it's actually for all people, it's actually good for all people, it's actually good for the UK, that brings money in the UK. GA actually brings 4 billion in the income to the budget, basically. It also employs 40,000 people. That was the numbers from a few years ago. So it actually is good for the country. It's not a thing to hide or be ashamed of. It's not just for people who are over 70 and they're white males. That was the wrong perception, actually. We can see that aviation appeals to people from of all backgrounds, of all ages, of all genders, of all kinds of values. It actually, that's why I like going to see the young people and see how we can actually change their life and give them some purpose. That the purpose is not just to post a picture on Instagram of what you eat, basically. There is more to it. It actually gives you purpose. You can actually learn something. You can learn transferable skills. You can get a great job. You can meet like-minded people and live a life to the full by doing something real. I wasn't very satisfied with my life as an office worker, basically. Office work is not for everybody. There is more to it. You can actually work as a pilot, as a ground crew, as a cabin crew, as an engineer. You can see the consequences of your actions of your involvement for other people, which make other people's life better. It's not just clicking the buttons and not necessarily seeing the result of that. But my favorite is to bring the kids to the airport where they can see the actual aviation happening. It's not, for me, it's not just to go to the classroom. So, and I like inviting people to actually see how exciting aviation is, how real it is, how much you can learn, how much community, the sense of community and belonging that you can get from it. I think it's fantastic, that this sense where you can literally network, you can learn new things, as we said, and it's really satisfying to be a part of it.